And over again, we hear people say, how can there be so much apathy, so many people who refuse to take simple measures to stop the spread of the coronavirus, when so many people, 250,000, 300,000 people have died, and so many more than that becomes terribly ill and infected, uh, and ICUs and hospitals overrun. How can people choose to just to ignore this that's going on? Well, it's not unique. It's unique in the size and the scope of what's going on, but insofar as principle, largely no one cares about anything until it touches them, until it negatively impacts them. People are able to ignore and walk around all kinds of egregious problems that we have. And here's the fact about the coronavirus: it disproportionately affects people in nursing homes, in prisons, in low-income communities, in meatpacking plants, and within hospitals. Obviously, inside hospitals, they're greatly affected at all. I don't work in a meatpacking plant, nor do I live in a low-income community. Nor I just moved into a nicer community from a lower income community. I don't work in, as I say, I don't live in a nursing home. I'm not in a prison. My job has not been affected. I drive an 18-wheeler down the road, and it's not touching me. It's not affecting me. There are many people like me, and it's not touching us, and it's not affecting us, and therefore it is amazing what can be ignored. Now, the problem with that, of course, one, is that the infection does not stay inside the communities. There are people going in and out of those communities all the time. And it may be, given that we are going to have to wait 3 or 4 months, possibly, before large-scale community vaccine distribution is available. And if it turns out that a large part of the country declines the vaccine, then we may see exponential growth. It is not hard to put together a model whereby 3 million of the 330 million people in the United States die. Not hard at all. Once we exceed our hospital capacity and treatment is not available, and that the people who are most infectious are out in the community, it is not hard to come up with a doomsday scenario. Not hard at all. More importantly, though, rather than fixing on what may or may not happen, is what is, of course, our responsibility, because in the end, that is the only thing to which we will be held to account in eternity. And we can say that we do not live in a hospital and we do not live in a nursing home, but Jesus is very clear that those people are our neighbors. And that is very important, because the parable of the Good Samaritan, as you may be familiar with it, is not really a parable about a Good Samaritan. It's a parable of the amazing things we can ignore when we want to ignore them. If we see a person dying on the road that is not of our kind, we surely can find a way to ignore that person and walk by on the other side. And that is what we are doing when we don't take the simple precautions necessary, washing our hands, not touching our face, wearing a mask. By the way, I have a 1941 Emily Post etiquette book, and it said the same thing. It said, look, if there's a sickness going around, wear a mask. This is not new stuff. And social distancing. If we do not do these things, we are in the position of the people who crossed by on the other side. If we want to be in the position of the Good Samaritan, then we need to be among those who are part of the solution rather than part of the problem. Because once again, we are responsible in eternity for the things that we choose not to know. Ignorance is no excuse, especially ignorance is no excuse. Ignorance of those who are suffering and dying around us is no excuse when we choose that ignorance.